My fellow Americans, it's May the 27th, 2020. A few days ago, we celebrated and honored our men and women for Memorial Day 2020. I reflect on every Memorial Day. I reflect on every day that I am alive and living in the United States of America. So I want to say a couple of things to you. I love America 24/7. And I honor those men and women that served our nation and still do. But if we truly want to do that, we need to stand up for them. And if you are current or even a veteran, I'm drafting you back into service. Now, this is going to require Republicans and Democrats alike to take action. And every day, do something. I want our nation to reflect and become a reality of these words said by Abraham Lincoln in one of his speeches. Now, keep in mind, this is Abraham Lincoln said this. And I want you to think about this. Really think about it. These are the words, some of the words he said. All men have a right to honorable employment and a fair chance in the race of life. Yes, he should have said women, but at the time, well, unfortunately, women were not factored in the way that they are now, and they weren't treated the right way in lots of ways. The reality of it is he should have said all citizens or all people or all Americans. But he said what he had said. But let's focus in on the second part of that. A fair chance in the race of life. A fair chance in the race of life. I want you to think about this for a minute. Do you know anybody on earth, or excuse me, in the United States, do you know anybody who hasn't had a fair chance in the race of life or couldn't get honorable employment? Do you know anybody who didn't get a fair chance in the race of life maybe because of their nationality, their religion, their lack of religion, their sexual orientation, or maybe their financial situation? Maybe they're disabled mentally or physically. Do you know anybody on earth that lives in the United States that didn't get a fair chance? The reality is a large majority of the United States of America's citizens, aka Americans, haven't had, nor have we ever had, a fair chance in the race of life. Let me ask you another question from a different perspective. Do you know anyone I almost said on earth, do you know anyone in the United States who's living paycheck to paycheck? And if they don't get that paycheck, they face a financial hardship, possibly homelessness and starvation, amongst other things. Do you know anybody in America that's living paycheck to paycheck? Because if you do, then the words that Lincoln and many former presidents have said are not a reality yet. Now here's the thing, my friends. I want you to ask yourself, have you also ever heard anyone at all, say, I can't wait till payday? Now let me tell you why that's not good. Because if our men and women of the military have been fighting for this nation since the 1700s for freedom, why do we not look at all aspects of freedom? And one of them is financial freedom. What can we do about it? We can honor these men and women that we just acknowledged on May 25th, 2020. We do that by becoming active. And we do that by changing our perspective. We do that by standing up. And we do that by, I wouldn't say honoring, but listening to the words and the lyrics of Tom Petty's song, the late Tom Petty, We do that by acting like we are the strongest SEAL, airborne ranger, Marine, or any other military tough guy or gal. We need to be mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally supermen and women. We do everything legally, ethically, morally, peacefully, spiritually, and yes, financially. But we need to be tough. We need to honor those men and women by demanding a better nation. A nation where no woman and no man utters the words ever again, "I can't wait to payday," because they won't have lack of income. Now, so many people of all political stripes say, "Al, how do you think we can do that?" Look, this is not the video, but I promise you, we have more power in our hands than every leader in the history of this planet. And I will give you perfect evidence. Right now, we have the coronavirus. All of you know about the pandemic. And we know that our economy is in really bad shape. Some say it could be worse than the Depression if we're not careful. This is a golden opportunity, my fellow Americans, to make right and to honor our military men and women at the very same moment. You see, right now our economy is crying. But the politicians of every stripe are nervous. Every corporation is hurting, or most. So what does that mean? That means we have bargaining power and leverage. Even the 17-year-olds that work at a fast food restaurant, y'all have leverage. How? Because our economy needs us. So what can we do? You can start by calling Congress at 1-202-224-3121, giving your zip code, and ask to speak to your House of Representative. Then you call back and you give that zip code again and you say, "I would like to speak to my senior senator." Call back third time. Say, "I want to speak to my junior senator." That's 3 calls. And in that call, say something to the effect, "You support a living wage." Now, to people who don't think that every small business can handle it, why do we fall for the lies that we have been told by politicians? Not all politicians are bad, but those who would deceive us are, and it doesn't matter if they have a D or an R, an I, whatever. You see, my friends, if our government wants to make sure that everyone has a living wage, then we, the people, can demand that our government supplies grants to each and every business that may need help. Maybe your mom and pop store that has 8 employees can't do a living wage. Let the government pay. We have put hundreds of trillions of dollars into our treasury. If you look at the beginning of America and the treasury, isn't it time those trillions of dollars start benefiting every mom and pop store in America? Every American citizen, benefiting you, benefiting everyone you know. Isn't it time? Now you might say, "Well, how can we afford it?" I promise you, there are ways. The question, my friends, is not, can our government afford it? Rather, it is, will our government afford it? And they have no incentive under normal circumstances to do so. Because the American people need money to eat and live. So in a larger sense, every American is a slave or servant. That could be an offensive word, but it's the truth. We are a servant or a slave to the mighty dollar. But since that dollar is so mighty, and since we have this pandemic, I say unto every American, every veteran, every hero and heroine, it is time we gain our freedom. And we do so by utilizing this pandemic in a good way. We must not go back, whether they turn it green, red, or blue. We must not go back to jobs at $7, $8, $9, $10, $11 an hour. Every American must have a living wage. Every child in America must have food. Every child in America must have access to education. Every child in America must have access to medical care. Every American, regardless of their age, will have, Congress, members of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, and the President. I did not say we want. I said we will legally, peacefully, ethically, morally, and above all, financially demand, with peaceful, legal, ethical, moral, spiritual, and financial means, we will demand a massive change. And to all candidates, Democrat, Republican, and otherwise, heed my words. Heed my words, Donald Trump. Heed my words, Joseph Biden. We demand a better America after this pandemic. We demand every American has access to health care, to food, to shelter, to education, and most of all, we demand hope again. We demand hope again. And at-risk children and teenagers that sometimes get into the wrong crowd because they feel hopeless. We shall no longer allow this. Donald Trump, Joseph Biden, it's your job to make America better. And we, the people of the United States, will see it happen because of these men and women who fought for freedom since the dawn of this great nation. Since the great and tragic Civil War. Yes, I reflect on Memorial Day. And I feel so sad for the 100,000 plus people who've died from this coronavirus. But we must not go back, my fellow Americans. We must demand, and we can, win. Demand doesn't mean that we're not peaceful, because we are. We're going to be peaceful, legal. We're going to be moral, spiritual, and financial. For those of you who are atheists, hey, as long as you're legal, ethical, financial, and peaceful, we're good. I love you all spiritually anyway. In closing, my fellow Americans, because of our economy is in this situation, we can regain, quote unquote, the jobs. But since the government always has found money for wars or bailouts for corporations and or banks or whatever, now it's time for the great American bailout, which will include every American citizen and every small business. And we don't care how much money it will require. And the bulk of this, listen very carefully, Donald Trump and Joseph Biden, the bulk of this money is going to come from the corporate world, the world of multinational corporations that pay little or no taxes. And it's going to come from those who have exploited and extorted the system. Now understand this, Donald Trump and President Joseph Biden. We will always be legal, financial, peaceful, and ethical. But we will not accept Washington, D.C., or any state government or city going back to the way it was. We owe it to every living veteran. Whether you agree with me politically or you think, oh my gosh, how much is that going to cost? We owe it to ourselves to make the words of the Declaration of Independence and the rights that we have, and also the words of Abe Lincoln, we owe it to ourselves to make it a reality. That all men, only we're going to make an addendum, all men and women, and all people of the United States of America, all people of the United States of America from this day forward, May 27, 2020, all people of the United States of America shall have a fair chance in the race of life, which will include but not be limited to a guarantee of access to health care, access to housing, access to food, access to education, and access to hope. Access to hope. And I shall always remain legally, peacefully, ethically, morally, spiritually, and financially peaceful and an American patriot. But make no mistake, I, just like the late Tom Petty, I will not back down because I spiritually love every soldier, sailor, airman, Navy person, Marine, SEAL, you name it. All of them are heroes. And I love the United States of America. So let me ask you, do you love America? If you do, you call Congress, 1-202-224-3121. Now again, we will do this legally, peacefully, ethically, financially, morally, and spiritually. But make no mistake, to Donald Trump and Joseph Biden, we will not remain silent. We will make our nation a greater nation than it has ever been when we return fully to green after this coronavirus. We expect a lot. And frankly, there's one of you that if you end up in the White House, I fully believe that one of you will show every American of any political stripe one of the greatest times in history for prosperity. And everyone will end up with that prosperity. Everyone will end up with an income. So in closing, I say to all politicians, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, we're going to remain legal, peaceful, nonviolent. But at least for me, like Tom Petty says, I won't back down. He has another line in there that I can't remember how it goes, but he said something about the gates of hell, and he still won't back down. So, although we will be peaceful, we will be legal, we shall be moral, and we shall be financial, let all politicians and let the entire planet know that I can't speak for the world, but I Albert Torcaso, approve of this video. And just for everybody out there, I won't back down. No, I won't back down.